and 42. As he approached Jerusalem, the Bible said, it says that he wept over it. And he said, if you, even you, had only known on this day what would bring you peace. He said, but now it is hidden from your eyes. And I thought about it, Faith United, why did Jesus weep over the city? Do you hear me? Why does Jesus weep over the folk that are lost in O'Fallon, Illinois? It's because he loves us. He loves us like that. Do you hear what I'm saying? Jesus knew that the folk were going to get swept away by their enthusiasm. But he also knew the problem was that they weren't putting their faith in him, but they were putting their faith in what they thought he was going to do for them. Oh, I wish I had somebody help me today. You got to understand that Jesus, he knew that the real peace that they needed wasn't a political peace. But he knew that the peace they needed was a spiritual peace. Oh, I wish I had some help here today. You got to understand that things have not changed in 2014. Do you hear what I'm saying? There are a lot of folk that I'm looking at right now that tell the Lord, if I only had this. Do you hear me? If I only had that. I'm talking to some real folk. If I only had this job. Do you hear what I'm saying? The Lord want to talk about those if only folk. Do you hear what I'm saying? If only I had the right man. If only I had the right woman. If only I had the right finances. If only I had this. If only. Jesus wants you to know that the things that this world offer you, things like power, things like possession, things like position, it's those kind of things that are only temporary and they won't bring you peace. Do you hear what I'm saying? Some of you can't even come to church because you're trying to hit the lottery. Do you hear me? You're trying to go on the boat thinking if you got enough money, it will give you peace. Do you hear what I'm saying? But is there anybody here? No. God knows that money ain't everything. Do you hear what I'm saying? If you look at the owner that came up with the Apple computers, he was filthy rich. He was a multi-billionaire. But when cancer hit, his money didn't matter. Do you hear what I'm saying? Some of you are trying to buy peace. Do you hear what I'm saying? But you got to understand that true peace only comes from God, because every good and perfect gift comes from the Lord. Do you hear what I'm saying? I got to ask you a question. Why are we shouting this morning? Do you hear what I'm saying? Jesus said that I've got to go and I've got to die. Do you hear what I'm saying? But you got to stand no matter who stands. You got to tell your friends, on Christ, the solid rock I stand. On the ground, I feel like preaching. Can I preach up in this place? You got to understand that you can't be wishy-washy. But what you got to understand is how ministry works. I'm talking to 2 or 3 of y'all. Don't get excited when your sister start complimenting you on how you got it going on. Don't get excited when your brother start complimenting you on how you got it going on. It's just for a season. Do you hear what I'm saying? You just stay around long enough. The same people that gave you the compliment were the same people that scandalized about your name. You got to understand when folk compliment you, just say thank you. I hope you feel the same way in a few weeks. Do you hear what I'm saying? Because they're only about you when you're doing what they want you to do. But when you stand for something, when you tell that friend, I ain't going to the club no more. When you tell that friend, I can't get sloppy drunk. When you tell that friend, I can't fornicate with you. When you tell that husband, I can't commit adultery. When you tell that friend, I can't cheat on my taxes with you. Do you hear what I'm saying? You got to understand. You got to stand. That's what Jesus did. They said crucify him, but Jesus knew his purpose. You got to understand, what is my purpose according to my daddy? My purpose is to serve the Lord in spirit and in truth. My purpose is to study his word. My purpose is to give my reasonable service. My purpose is to do the 10 Commandments. My purpose, you got to study your purpose. Jesus knew what his purpose was. Here's the purpose. Wasn't coming to fight nobody. Here's the purpose. Wasn't to bust no heads. Here's the purpose. Wasn't to cut nobody. Here's the purpose. Wasn't to run down on nobody. But his purpose. His purpose. His purpose. Oh, his purpose was to come one Friday. Do you hear what I'm saying? One Friday. Anybody know about that Friday? Oh, Friday. Oh, Friday. His purpose was to come and die. His purpose was to get rid of your haters. His purpose was to take out your enemies. But his purpose was to come and die that I might have life. That Friday. Anybody know about that Friday? You got to understand that he was God's son. All he had to do is say, Daddy, send me 10,000 angels and take me off that cross. But he never lost sight of his purpose. He never lost sight of the will of God. He died. Anybody know he died? But early. Sunday morning, he got up with all power in his hands. And because he finished his purpose, he can take care of my purpose. Because he died and he got up, he can handle my business. He got power to heal the backslider. He's got power to heal the liar. He got power. Anybody glad about that power? Yes, you glad. High five your neighbor and say, neighbor, I'm glad about that power. I'm glad about that power. When I'm down, he's healing power. When I'm broke, financial power. When I want to hate, he's loving power. Somebody shout power. Oh, power. Oh, power. Oh. 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 Power. Woo! Woo! Tell your neighbor, if you understood that power, you would understand. You'd understand why I act like I lost my mind. It was the power that got me out my mess. It was the power when I was tore up from the floor up. It was the power when I was ready to throw in the towel. It wasn't about me. It was his power. Oh, his power. Oh, 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 his power. Give God some praise.